and it goes right to the, probably about, around about here. It's a slight, too much of a curve there actually, let's say it goes natural curve, in between the first finger and the middle finger. This is a good balance of emotions. We have the headline, we have the lifeline, vitality, mentality. These relationship lines come across, we're bearing in mind they're coming from the side of the hand, which kind of goes right around here and curve around here. So they're coming up like this, you know, and coming like that.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me again.
It's lovely for you to invite me, actually. Once again, thank you very much. Nice to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm really happy. We've done quite a few palm reading videos together, but it's really nice to have the opportunity to talk more about like different lines and what they mean.
I will explain to the best of my knowledge to see what comes up and that. That's really good, mate.
Yeah, I've had a look through the book you gifted me last time. I just thought for everyone's sake, I was just going to talk a bit about the introduction to the book,
Sure.
and then we can move on to the lines and some of the things that are covered in it. So a bit about the book. Mirror Images in Palmistry and Tarot is the latest literary offering by celebrated and well-known palmist Gary Marckwick. The book is a collaborative effort co-written with longtime friend and associate of Gary's, Isabella Dulac, an experienced and well-respected tarot reader. The book does a bit of both palmistry and tarot.
And
right?
tarot together. What I've done is, which is kind of unique in itself, is even though the friend put the side of the tarots together, I actually corresponded the palms to connect with the tarots actually. We're not going to obviously read the book, but I will explain on the screen about. We'll start off with the lovers, the most fascinating subject for most people. If I stand up here, okay, I'll use a green tip here. Well, let's start off with the Mount of Venus. This is the, so this is your, you'll have to excuse my drawings, they're not the best, I'm not an artist. But imagine that's our lifeline, which goes all the way around here. So this part of the palm is the Mount of Venus, and this is the vigor, the vital, our energy, the passion. This is where the passion. When that's flat, it can perhaps a person's lacking in passion, that kind of thing. Okay. So the more that's raised, the person can have that energy and the passion and that. We have the heart line. Well, it runs from, I'm just trying to work out the ups and downs here, but let's just take it from, let's say here, and it goes right to the, probably about, around about here. It's a slight, too much of a curve there actually, let's say it goes natural curve, in between the first finger and the middle finger. This is a good balance of emotions. We have the headline, we have the lifeline, vitality, mentality, and emotions. This is your heart line. Many things show up on this heart line from, if we've had issues, emotional issues and that, relationships, family issues and things like that. And that can show up in different ways on the heart line. But a natural curve, or should I say kind of a bit more kind of going up, it's like more of a curve. This is more of a balance. When this heart line kind of retracts and comes back a little bit more to the middle finger, around about that, a person could be, perhaps they're looking for their needs to be met in a physical way. Can be a little bit selfish sometimes, So we have the balance, we have this kind of retraction, holding back a little bit on that level, on that kind of thing. When it's, the heart line is going straight across like that, now this person may be kind of idealistic, a lot of idealism there. If they were choosing a partner, they may set their standards quite high in finding that partner. They may not take anybody on board.
Right.
You know, and quite often there's well, the heartline may be a little bit too low actually, but if you had a headline here and it was creating a gap like that in between lines, that person could be quite independent. So therefore they may might even be protecting themselves, holding back a little bit in meeting the person and that kind of. I won't go too much into that in a moment because we're talking about the emotions and like this. So this is kind of the basic ways. When a heart line is actually going direct right to the right across the palm, it can show a person that may give a lot to their partner, but they may not always see the pitfalls and the downfalls in others around us, even though their friends might be telling them, because they're so maybe a little bit obsessed with that, you know. So it works both ways, you know. They can be idealistic, but they can also be, once they find that person, they can be quite attached to the person who they meet. So, well, we have what they call the attachment lines. Now this comes from, so we have the phalanges here, say, you know, we have that. And excuse my diagram for the scale, it's not 100% right, but we'll get there. You'll look at your own hands and think, oh, have I got that there? And this, so yeah, so anyway, just below the the base of the little finger, we have in between the heart line and that, we have the attachment lines. Now, many cultures would say they're the marriage lines. The Western world, not everyone gets married. You know, Eastern world, perhaps not so much these days. But you know, they would treat that as, in India, they would say these are the marriage lines. And that.
Okay.
I tend to say they're the attachment lines. You know, with relationships, these relationship lines come across. We're bearing in mind they're coming from the side of the hand, which kind of goes right around here, and curve around here. So they're coming up like this, you know, and coming like that. It is very difficult to say, you know, some people say, oh, I have 3, and people may tell you this as well. You have 2 or 3 lines of attachments. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have 3 marriages, 3 long relationships or anything like that. Possible, but not always. It's a tricky, it's a minefield actually, a lot of it, but you have to really, you know, it takes a lot of experience sometimes, but you can get a good idea, a general idea where it's all going and up. So assuming you have one very long, let's see, we could take it, can go right across the palm and that, you know, well, to a certain extent. If there's just one, maybe there is one person, and it might not have come yet, but that person could be the one for you, and it may be a very long relationship. You know.
Right.
However, there's always what is permanent. You know, nothing's permanent, is it? So if now again, sometimes when that long line can go down, it could create disappointments, but it could also show, if it's a very long line of relationship, it could show that you may outlive your partner. You could be together 30, 40, 50 years or something like that, and may outlive them. So it's a tricky one, that. Sometimes when it's short and it drops down, it could be a disappointment in some other way in relationships and that. If the line splits like that, a fork, should I say, going across like that, forks, that's quite often separation. Yeah, separation. So it's well, if there was marriage there, it could be divorce as well, and that kind of thing. You know. Quite often you'll see maybe a line. We're moving up, so a line above that maybe the later time another person coming into your life and that. I'm just trying to explain it as clear as I can. When we have things like crosses and islands, what's the oval shapes, that can cause problems as well. And that can be also on the heart line as well. So if we have like an oval shape like that, cause an island, they call this an island, could be an emotional setbacks of some way in that. Yeah. And if it ties up with these lines there, so it could well be in a relationship and that kind of thing. Yeah. Let's see here. Sometimes you might have two lines running across each other, very close together, like that. The person, if it's the same relationship, that person could be, you may be doing your own thing, especially if they've got a strong independence. So you may be saying, it may say like, you do your thing, partner does theirs. You've got your career, they've got their career, but some people also are quite happy to live like that, almost coexisting.
Yeah.
So we're not sort of smothering each other too much. Other people are not comfortable with that, they want more intimacy. But there are people, many people out there, especially if they are independent, that will quite like that kind of relationship and that. And that runs together, can go on for many years, quite happily, and that sort of thing and that. If that line, the relationship line, kind of curves back like that and goes up, it could be possibly jealousy. So there could be probably on the person of the beholder of that line. Like, so it could be a bit possessiveness. So they want to see. So where are you going tonight then? I'd get a bit possessive about that one. So what else do we have here? Just looking at that. Actually, when the heart line, we read the heart line from the left to right here, but when the heart line can curl up a bit like that, quite unusual actually from this end, if it just curls up like that, that could also show a person from, or maybe even go for here, out for the money, material gain. Could be material gain there, We have a thing also with the children. Sometimes fine lines come down here like that with children. It is quite tricky to know how many children there might be. Now, the lines need to be attached to the attachment lines. If they're hovering above, could be adoption.
Right.
It could be another person's child. And we have to be very careful with this, because I've asked people in the past and I've said, I see two children on your hand. Oh no, they're my dogs. Or they're my cats. Or even horses, So sometimes they're not looking for any children, but they're very strong on their hand. There are times when, usually when it's not connected, they can be nephews, nieces as well, and things like that.
Right.
It is a bit tricky. Girls usually slant to the side, boys usually upright like that. But again, it's not always easy to decipher that. You can.
It's very small.
Yeah, and sometimes it needs a bit of intuition on top of it. If you have like any of these lines above, like for children, if there's crosses or little squiggles, crosses can be abortions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen that quite frequently a lot on girls' hands and that. Squiggles, not always showing up. Squiggle can be more of a miscarriage sometimes. So it's really, you have to be very careful, when you're asking anybody about these kind of things and that sort of thing, But that can show on in different ways sometimes and that, like that. Just think of what else we have there actually. And sometimes, you'll have a long relationship and it might do this as well down the coming along here, it goes into the relationship, and you'll have a bit of a double line there. That person sometimes may, like I said before, may coexist. They might live in the same house even, married, but they're not. Maybe they're not together anymore, or for the sake of the children, coexist, living in the same house, whatever, and that can be a separation. It varies, depends on what's going on in a person's life and that, on that couple and that. Just trying to think. I've covered a lot of things on the relationship. Do you have any questions at all, Miss?
So I know this one is the right hand.
Yeah. Well, it's
would
only
you-
because I've got the
Yeah.
diagram where I haven't
So
got left hand.
does that count on both hands, or is it a certain
Actually,
one better?
relationships are quite often seen more. That's a good point, actually. I should have explained that. Relationships are seen more on the left hand. They can be seen on the right hand as well. And some palmists might only look at the left hand as well, because the left hand is our the emotions, and that quite often it's like the right hemispheres of the brain goes to the left side, which is the feminine, creative, emotional side, and vice versa. Right side of the brain goes to left side of the brain goes to the right side, masculine, physical, logical, that kind of thing. You know? So it is often seen more on the left hands and that. I always look at both for relationships, you know, just to
Right.
confirm it really. But yeah, you look at the left hand, and that can show up a lot of emotions. It's kind of like I said, it's quite tricky because some people, they could be 40 years old, could be more, and they've never had a relationship in their life. But doesn't mean to say they will never have one. And quite often it does show a very long relationship there, potentially for the future and that kind of thing. Yeah. Timing is quite difficult. I mean, with the heartline, it can be like, this varies from different palmers. We could sort of say if we're moving up that way, it can be like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, almost like that. But it can vary slightly. And that can be at times when emotional changes are happening. Maybe you meet someone new around these times and that kind of thing, you know, positive or negative, whatever it might be in that manner. I just think I covered most things on that, on the attachment lines. Let's see if there's anything else I've left out, really. Yeah, you know, I mean, as a palmist, you have to look at everything, really, because there's so many different, you know, synchronicities and characteristics, you know. Like I said, going back to that strong independence. Now, on the left hand, that can show, if that strong independence could show from the past and that, and maybe as a child, they had to be really responsible in their family or something like that, or they felt needed protection, and that maybe from trauma or anything like that. So that person can form that kind of barrier, or maybe even that strong independence to hold back a little bit, you know. And it can take a long time sometimes to trust. It is to do with trust a lot of it, to be able to trust the other person that they might meet. So they could be holding back for years without meeting that person, you know, like that. Well, we've all got our issues, we've all got our characters and our characteristics. So nobody's perfect, but from the negative, we can always change it to the positive. There's always a positive from that. Yeah, there's so many different lines and that, but I'm just trying to keep to the lovers at the moment with the, with the book, which is not totally always 100%, but it's given a very good idea of what can be and that.
Do they change quite? Because I know you said about
The
3
lines
months.
can change as little as between 2 and 3 months. I've seen hands change, lines change for within weeks sometimes and that kind of thing. Yeah. No, one thing I did forget to mention. So you got the fork there at the end, but if you have a fork in the beginning, going down, that can be it could be a friendship, coming together, getting to know the person, and you kind of getting to know them, and then it carries on to a strong relationship like that. If there's two, if it's kind of like 2 lines at the beginning, if they're kind of separate lines, straight lines, and then it goes into one, that could be, the person might be a distance, whether it's physical or emotional, hard to say at the time. We have to check everything else, because they could even be in another country, especially these days with the online dating and all that kind
Like
of thing.
long distance.
Yeah,
And stuff.
so that could be that. Or it might be just you're not quite sure about the person, or there's that little bit of a distance. You know, you're just seeing how things go, and it kind of carries on. And I think that more or less covers the relationship lines. Can't think of anything else. Bear in mind that other markings on the hand, different parts of the hand, and different markings on the attachment lines can have effect on in a negative way as well. So
Right.
different times and that kind of thing, like that. Yeah, I think that's it really. There's so much more that you could correlate with other parts of the hand and that can affect obviously relationships and things like that. Depends what's going on in our lives at the time and that kind of, especially
Yeah.
stress, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I am seeing a lot of people these days, and they meet someone, but the other person says they can't commit because they're too busy because of online. I think it's because of the online, too many apps, too many data apps, and that. So that causes a few problems with that.
Attention spans.
But there's many different reasons in that. Yeah, well, that is it. As far as I know, maybe there's more that I've forgotten about. It comes up occasionally with different things but that's
really
that's our relationships, and that's the emotions. Excuse the scraggly drawing as well. I mean, I'm sure you get the picture.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see all of the
Yeah,
different meanings
it is
behind it
interesting.
all.
It's I mean, nothing is so clear. It's you've got to kind of look at things in different contexts. You've got to look at the other lines to see perhaps timing and that kind of thing. Timing is a very big thing, and cycles in our lives are really important and that. But it does give us it can be quite a good indication of what's going on in our lives, and maybe potentially for the future even, how it's going. But I always say, if there's destiny there, the fate is there, in between we have a playground to make a choice.
Oh, that's lovely.
So maybe nothing's set in stone, and that kind of, so
Yeah.
we have that choice.
So it's like the potential.
Yeah, exactly. It is all potentiality, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good and that. But even the fingers, the shapes. We could always go through that another time. Shapes of the fingers, the lengths, which way they bend. They all have meaning. Which fingers you put rings on.
Wow.
They're all quite brings out the characteristics and that. All the
So
the negatives and the
interesting.
positive and that. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of stuff there. And the back of the hands, just the nails alone, the shapes of the nails and things like that, really important. That yeah. There's a lot in it. There's,
Yeah, I remember you checking the backs of mine first.
yeah,
Yeah,
always
didn't
colours, shapes of the nails, yeah, which way they're going, short, oblong, and the lengths of the fingers. Quite rare these days. With it's seen a lot in Asia. Very long palms and fingers. You don't see it a lot now. Most people have got kind of short, stubby fingers because they're a little bit impatient. Everyone wants to get things done a bit earlier. But the long fingers, very elegant fingers, great for beauty and taking their time. Very sensitive people and all that kind of. So yeah, but again, that's another story.
Yeah,
Another
there's so
time.
much. Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
So
been really
I hope
interesting.
you enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll try to do better drawings next time.
No, it's great. I think I had like front row seats, so I could see it all.
Yeah. Well, I hope the cameras can pick it up. And
I hope so, and hopefully I can go home and see some. I'm sure people watching will try
Yeah.
see it on themselves.
You'll be working it out, confused now.
Yeah, I need we've got the magnifying glass that looks
Yeah,
really
well, you see, that's the thing.
helpful.
I mean, I'm a bit of a cheat really because I've got glasses as well, and a good magnifying glass will help you to go really into the finer lines, the finer line. And I have a lamp, obviously, with a table coming down, so I can really focus on where I'm at. And the fingerprints and everything, everything is there really. So it's we've been given this, even in the Bible it talks of this, 2 or 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, it goes back 5,000 years. I think
Wow.
it originated from possibly from northwest India, Pakistan, India, and came down and came through Europe and way around it, found its way and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's an old science or whatever you like to call it, and that kind of thing.
Ah.
So it's great, isn't it? It's I mean, there's so much you can talk. Well, I give 10-week workshops for this, but there's a lot in it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like learning a language as well, because you've got to be quite dedicated and that sort of thing to really sort of take it all in, you know. And
Yeah, to remember all of this, that's really impressive.
And then it's a practical experience. I mean, well, I used to work in Camden at Market, so 20 years of experience there, reading over 20,000 people's hands. So that was a good experience to really, you know, to see everybody, all kinds of people from all over the world and that.
A very busy place, isn't it?
Yeah. So, interesting stuff in that, you know. But it's always something to know, new to learn.
Oh, it was lovely hearing about it. I'd love to hear more again another time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like something a bit different in that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really good, like.
Yeah, it was really fun because I'm always just sort of listening to the lines, and it's nice to kind of know some of the
Exactly.
story.
Yeah, because people, you know, they'll look at their hands and thinking, or maybe you'll have someone go in, you know, you're in a pub or something like that, and they'll tell you, oh, I can read palms. And look at you. Unfortunately, they often bring out a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not always totally qualified, like, you know, that
Right.
kind. But sometimes they can get it right, and that can mean some things, and that's it's interesting. That, but people are always interested. Oh, what's on my hand? And that, and that is the problem. You know, I've been at weddings, I've been everywhere, and I've just like gone into, especially in India, they found out I did palmistry, and put the cases down or whatever, the bags down in the hotel, and the palm comes out. Like, oh, can you just read my hand? Look at please. And so you have to be very careful. Like, you know,
Everyone will be giving you their palms.
I usually keep it quiet. Like,
Yeah. Especially when travelling, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
But that's it then. And my book does collaborate with the tarot cards. It's it's written with a friend and that, but there's a lot of things in that you can pick up, and especially for people these days that, you know, they like the cards and that, they like to read. So it'll give them an idea of to match it, hopefully, within reason. Not 100%, but I've got a lot of things in that book that can help people bring that together and that.
Yeah, it might help to memorise it as well with that kind of visual cue of the tarot card.
Yeah. When you're younger, you can take it all in. As you get older, oh, what was that? I just can't remember. That's the way it goes.
I mean, I can't remember, so...
I know it takes a while, but I think it's just sometimes you get a couple of things, and you know, you could go and look at someone's hand and think, oh, blah blah. And quite often it can be, you know, there are people, oh, that was very accurate, that was very good, you know.
Oh, I'd love to try on my friends.
Yeah. So you can try it on them and that, yeah. But keep it light.
Yeah,
don't get too
don't
heavy.
make
That
it
can
all
be,
negative.
yeah. But it's interesting. You know, it's a good subject.
Yeah.
My mother did it. My grandfather did it. I never learnt from them. I taught myself over many years actually. But yeah, they did it in a different way. Not sure how my grandfather really worked. I did watch them do it, and my mother, she only knew 3 lines. She knew the lifeline, the headline, and the heart line, and that was it. And she just developed clairvoyance, because they were quite well known on BBC in the 1950s with mind reading, escapology, all that kind of thing, magician and that, illusionist. So I think she just picked it up from a very young age and that, and developed that. But I didn't realise that, you know. And when I went to read her palms, she said, oh, I didn't know there was so much in it. I only knew 3 lines of that. So that was kind of strange, you know. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because everyone does it very differently, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't work. I mean, I'm clairsentient. I feel, so I'm using my intuition, and I'm feeling my way through. There's hand analysis, and there's palmist, and a lot of the people that call themselves hand analysis, they're working on a very logical basis. Not all. They may not be totally using the intuition so much. I'm not saying I'm relying on my intuition, but I have found it really does help when I'm you know, I'm looking at the lines, I'm looking at palms and saying, I'm not sure about that. What do I really feel about which way is this going? Because it can be quite confusing sometimes. Lines come off here and over there. It's like, I always say, it's like getting out a road map and trying to point you in the right direction, going up the A1 or the motorway. In fact, you could look at it in a different way. You could say the mounts. These are all the mounts under the under there. So they're like fingerprints almost. You have these kind of padded sort of things and that. The gypsies used to say, "Oh, there's money coming in." It depends on the under the fingers really. But we could say these are the mountains, the major roads, or should I say, these are the mountains, and then we have the seas, the major lines of the seas, and the finer lines are the rivers. And that's when you can get the blockages, like estuaries coming out, and the blockages and the openings, and that kind of thing, the endings and the new beginnings. And as the lines change, those 2-3 months, nothing's permanent. So there's always things opening up.
So it's like a picture being created.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I saw a 90-year-old lady come to see me for palmistry.
Wow.
I thought, oh my God, what am I going to tell her? And you know what? I found something new on her hand, and I said, there's a new beginning for you. There's something coming up, interesting too. And she didn't say, oh, it's not going to happen, is it? She said, oh, that's really interesting. She was kind of looking forward to something and that. Like she knew and that already.
Oh, that's
and
great.
That's quite amazing. See, and I read babies' hands as well. So, and I tell you something about some of the babies and that could be a few weeks old. They've got, well, not always so many lines, but I've seen 2 or 3 children on babies' hands. I've seen so many different characteristics and all that kind of thing. It's strange. I have more difficulty in adults sometimes.
Yeah, because I guess the babies, it's like they've got less, so is it clearer?
Yeah. I mean, well, even in the womb, we're acting out our characteristics, idiosyncrasies. So we're actually acting out stuff. So we're forming, and we formed the first 3 lines. I can't remember. Maybe in the first, I don't know, 18 weeks. I can't remember. It's amazing how they're so early formed and that.
Wow.
Characteristics and the DNA obviously passed down from the families, ancestors, parents, and all that kind of. So it's a really interesting. I've seen a lot of psychologists actually. Well, I've seen psychiatrists and doctors and different people, scientists even, but psychologists quite. Well, Carl Jung was into all that, and psychologists kind of like it in a way because it helps them to. I don't know. They can connect with it, because it is about ourselves. It's about our lives. It's about our characteristics and other things in that. So it's I'll show you one thing before we finish here. So, if you have very rare these days, but I've seen it on even young teenagers and that. So they used to call it the murderer's thumb, and it's like a bulbous thumb like that. I mean. Might have exaggerated a little bit, but it does stand out a little bit, and it's like a bulb. That person probably has a lot of pent up. In the old days, he used to call it the murderer's thumb, Victorian age. Modern times, it's showing a person may have pent up anger from the past. Now, it can be hereditary, fun enough, because I saw these 2 teenage girls. They were young, they were about 14 years old years ago, and their father had the same thing. So it's kind of passed down on the DNA and that. But yeah, so if they have that, you need to really be able to express that anger and not let it build up and then explode too much and that kind of thing. So again, different characteristics.
And the fingers as well as the palms.
Totally. A lot of stuff in those fingers.
I never knew about that.
Maybe next time we'll go on the fingers or something like that, or the back of the hand.
Yeah, there's so much to learn. Yeah.
There is a lot to learn actually, but it's interesting. It's kind of it's like, oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
So it's nice actually. Yeah, it's good. It works. It does work. I mean, we can't be 100% accurate all the time. We all get things wrong. We all make mistakes, and I've done that many times over the years. But I think the most important thing, and we're not treating this as like the old-fashioned way of like the way the gypsies would read, and or people might, inexperienced readers, they might even tell you, and they do it with other reading. It's like cards reading, and they may tell you, there's a terrible accident, you're going to be in hospital for so long, but you'll be okay. I don't go down that road. Probably because I don't see that. If I see something negative, I will say, there might be something around this area. It might be on the health, it might be emotional, but I would never frighten the person because I may not know. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of young people's hands, and the worst thing you can do is create self-fulfilling prophecies in their head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they start believing it, and that, it's the worst thing people can do in
Yeah.
that. So, you've got to tread lightly, but it's not like you're lying or anything. You just got to sort of work around it and say, help them as best way you can. Right?
Yeah, like a positive take on
Positive.
it. Yeah.
There's always a positive solution. And that,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how far, whatever's happened in our lives, we can turn it around. And when people are very depressed and in a negative mode, I say, well, look at these people that have lost their limbs and that, and they're performing Olympics.
Yeah.
Things like that. We can always turn, where there's a negative, there's a positive, We can do that. There's an answer somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very
So,
inspiring.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Lovely for having me again.
Thank you.
I hope the viewers enjoy it.
Me too.
And that book is a good book, actually. I'm on my 4th book at the moment, Past Lives, but that's was it my 2nd book? No, it's my 3rd book. So I can't remember. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Recommend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.